Hey mini enthusiasts, how are you doing? Welcome back. I hope you're all well and I hope you're having a great day. So I don't usually start the video sitting down, but today there is a warning. There could be a lot of waffle involved. So I will timestamp down the bottom. If you want to fast forward through all the waffle, then please feel free to. I won't feel offended in the slightest. So where do we start? Firstly, I just wanted to talk a little bit more. I mentioned on Mark's video on Tuesday or Wednesday about upcoming projects to the channel, and I just wanted to give you a little bit more detail. So one of those projects, which I will probably be doing here in this workshop rather than down at Mark's, because he's going to have the Cooper S and he's got to be quite busy with that. So what Mark wants to do, he actually wants to sell Project Kit, so that car will be for sale at some point. But as with most things, that is a very, very modified car. It's pretty unique in the way it's styled and that sort of thing. And unfortunately, with something like that, the fact that it's an auto does really make it quite difficult to sell because people want a manual gearbox. I get things like on Tardis where I've kept it auto just for the originality, but on something like Project, it's extensively modified and it will sell much easier if it's got a manual engine in it. So what Mark is going to do, I think the plan is to bring it up here and I'll get going on converting that to a manual, but it won't just be any manual. So as I might have mentioned before, Mark has lots and lots of cars. A few of them you will have probably never seen on the channel. In fact, he has a black pickup for sale at the moment, which is on eBay, I think, if you go and check it out, and it's on some mini selling sites as well. So I don't think that black pickup has ever been for sale. Another mini he has, which was actually his first mini, is called Rufus. It's definitely not one for the purists. It is extensively modified. It has got a huge sound install in it, all top quality components and everything like that. And it has a SwiftTune engine. It has got a beautiful paint job on it with metal fleck in the paint. It is a lovely paint job, but Mark has noticed there's some cracking on the seals and it's got over seals on it. So that is a project coming up for the future. So Mark wants to take that back to a bare shell and then basically just rebuild that car and put a big spec engine in it. But currently it has a SwiftTune 1380 in it. So the plan is to take that SwiftTune 1380 manual out and use that and put that into kit. It's going to be a bit of a challenge actually. Kit is a bit weird because Kit is a 1990 car. That is what it's registered as. That is the age of the shell. But we actually made it an SPI Mini because it was for Lucy, because SPI Minis have no choke, because they're just much easier and they can be more reliable. So it was set up, we built it as an SPI Mini. Now we are going to convert it to a manual gearbox and take it back to being a carburetted Mini. So it could be quite interesting. So what I thought I'd do, I'll talk you through the spec. So it'll be quite interesting. So it's a SwiftTune 1380cc engine. It's got a stage 3 head with 36mm, 30mm plasma hardened steel valves, triple grooved, bronze guides, double springs, 10.3:1 compression ratio. The crankshaft has been ground and balanced. It's got balanced A+ com rods with all ARP bolts and nuts and everything throughout. Obviously, the pistons are 73.5mm, making it 1380cc, 9cc dished, and they're PowerMax pistons. It's got a SwiftTune SW8 billet cross-drilled camshaft, a SwiftTune harmonic damper, CSI ignition, it's a Verto clutch, what else? lots and lots. It's a high spec engine. It makes 95 brake horsepower at around about 6,000 RPM. So that's going to be quite an interesting project. I'm not sure at what stage we'll start that, but it will be running in parallel with the Cooper S. And obviously, it's not going to be a 6-month project that, or certainly fingers crossed it won't be anyway, because we're just, well, it will be mostly me. We'll be taking the engine out, converting it, swapping it over with a manual engine, doing the conversion, changing the pedal box, probably have to change the wiring loom, the fuel tank, the gear lever, remote, put some different engine mounts on it. So yeah, that's one of the projects that's coming. The other one, I cannot reveal yet, apart from, again, I'm going to say it's an absolutely awesome project that is coming pretty soon. It has been going on in the background in secret, so I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you on the channel. Now, going back to Project Tardis, thank you for all the kind comments. I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. Just wanted to cover off a couple of questions I had. So first one, usually before when I finished a project, I've done like a live Q&A, and I thought I'd do something different this time. So in this video, if you want to ask me a question about Tardis or maybe one of the other projects, please stick it in this video and I'll take those comments, and in a week's time or something like that, I will give answers to those comments in a video. So kind of a Q&A, but I'm not going to do it live. So one of the questions I had recently from oh God, who was it? I do apologise. I'm awful with names. I've got a memory like a memory like a sieve. That's it. And rubbish at comedy. So one of the questions I had was, did I have any problems with Project Tardis kind of first run? So the first run wasn't the video that went out. The first run was taking it down for an MOT, and I did plan, I was going to video it all, taking it down to the MOT station, but basically I had to do it during my lunch break, so I didn't have time to faff around with cameras. I just had to get down there, get it MOT'd and get back. So sometimes you watch people's build videos and everything seems to go perfect, doesn't it? So there were a few teething troubles. One, the speedo didn't work. Straight away, off the back, got up the road, the speedo wasn't working. It was connected both ends, but it just wasn't engaging in the head unit. I actually managed to sort that out while I was driving along by putting my hand up behind the dash, giving it a wiggle, and then eventually it sort of aligned and then the speedo started working. I had a water leak on it, which I started thinking, oh no, is the water pump leaking? Because that's where I could see it coming from. But I am sure I tightened up the water pump bolts, but they were all sort of a turn loose. I'll have to go back and watch the videos. I'm sure I tightened them up, but as I've found with Jubilee clips in the past, particularly when you're using new rubber hoses, you can tighten up the Jubilee clips, give it a couple of weeks, and the rubber just settles and squashes, and you have to give the Jubilee clips another half a turn or a turn to make sure they're tight. So that was a water leak. That was no biggie to sort out. Steering wheel wasn't straight, and the badge is still on upside down on the steering wheel. I still need to sort that out, and well spotted, Paul Jeffries, for working out it was upside down. And I know it's upside down because you look at the badge on the front of the car and the label on the radio to know it's upside down. And the other thing was the, not on the MOT actually, it got down and back from the MOT fine, but when I took it out doing the video for kind of the last video, the cinematic buttery shots sort of thing, the exhaust started blowing. It just got progressively worse the further I drove it. So I'm going to address that in this video. So in this video, after this, there'll be a little bit on the sorting out the exhaust clamp on Project Tardis. But that was pretty much it. Everything else was fine on it, and I've not had any problems since, apart from the basic stuff like just adjusting idle screws and things like that, getting the mixture right. Now, one of the other things I was going to talk about quickly, a subscriber did notice it in an early video and it had some relevance to me. I knew there was some relevance there, I just didn't quite understand exactly what the relevance was. So in the rear window of this, it has a dealership sticker, used car dealership sticker, and it says Surbiton Mini Centre. Now, at the time when I saw that, I thought that has got something to do with John Cooper garages, hasn't it? But I couldn't quite remember why. So I actually done a bit of searching on the internet. It's quite an interesting story actually. So I found an article in the goodlifesurbiton.co.uk. The article from Surbiton's Good Life magazine reads, "The Mini Giant, are you of a certain age? Was your first car a Mini? If you answered yes, chances are you bought Britain's most iconic motor from the Surbiton Mini Centre. And Roger Florio was probably the man who sold it to you. Roger, his brother Tony and their father George started in business as a garage and car lot next to the railway bridge in Upper Brighton Road. It was in 1968, a year after the Beatles drove around in a psychedelic Mini Cooper S in the Magical Mystery Tour, and the year before Michael Caine's team of gold thieves raced through Turin in 3 Mark I Austin Mini Coopers in the crime caper classic The Italian Job. Tony was mechanic and Roger was customer service and sales. Business thrived, and in 1971 they rented a showroom at the corner of Ewell Road and Hollyfield Road from Surbiton's racing driver and car designer John Cooper, the man behind the sporty Mini Cooper. The showroom became the shop window and go-to place for anyone wanting the coolest car of its generation." So yeah, quite interesting. So this humble little Mini come from Surbiton Mini Centre at some stage of its life, and Surbiton Mini Centre was literally on the corner. You had John Cooper Works garages in Surbiton, and then on that corner was the Surbiton Mini Centre, and it was owned by John Cooper. So one of the touches I've done on the car, very, very small touch when I've ordered parts, was I've got the number plates so that they still say Surbiton Mini Centre on them, and I've retained the dealership sticker in the rear windscreen just as kind of, I guess, just as a bit of heritage, just a bit of a history with the car. It doesn't mean the car's anything special. It doesn't mean that John Cooper himself personally fettled the engine or anything like that, but I just think it's a nice little bit of history with the car. So, how are we doing on the waffling? I bet that has gone on for quite a while. Let's get into the video now. The first part is going to be sorting out the exhaust clamp on Project Tardis, and then depending on the length of the video, I've got a little bit on PL. If not, if it's quite a long intro, then the bit on PL may get pushed out to another episode. But thank you very much for joining in. I do apologise if I've waffled on. Like I say, timestamps hopefully have helped you navigate your way through to the interesting bits. Have a great day, and I will be back again very soon. Right now, like I mentioned, I had loads of problems with the exhaust clamp, front pipe to manifold on this, and stopping it leaking. And after redoing the clamp a couple of times, I just gave up and took it off. And I'll show you what the problem was. So this was a brand new clamp from Mini Spares. It's not often I'm disappointed with stuff I get from Mini Spares, but definitely I was disappointed with these clamps. So this is the clamp I ordered from Mini Spares. It was brand new. As I say, I couldn't get the exhaust to seal up. Now what I noticed, I took it off in the end and compared it with the old clamp, and the old clamp is just a pressed steel type clamp, very, very similar in design. But this, I would have just used the old one, and I did in the interim, but the metal's just corroded to the point it's really, really thin now. So yeah, I used this as kind of a stopgap while I was doing the filming for the sort of end video, but I'm going to change it again now. So what I found the problem is, so where the front pipe goes onto the cast iron manifold, it's like, what would you call it? It's like a beveled flange. And the idea of this clamp is, as you can see, it's beveled inside as well. That clamps together and it pulls the two parts of the exhaust, the manifold and the downpipe together. The problem is that bevel is probably about 7 or 8 mil wide, and it has to fit inside this clamp. So this has got beveled edges so that when you tighten it up, it pulls the two together. Now, when I measure the depth of the bevel on this clamp, it's 1.5 mil. There's barely a bevel there at all. When I measure the old clamp that come off the car, and this is not an original clamp, this is an aftermarket one as well, that's 2.93 mil or 2.95. It's almost double the depth. Now, this is like a cast iron type clamp, similar to what would have been on there from new. And this measures 3.75 mil deep. So as you can see, the depth of the bevel on the cast iron one is much, much deeper than this pressed steel one by over 2 millimeters, and the one that come off it previously was over well, just over a millimeter difference as well. So yeah, unfortunately these are just rubbish. Maybe I've just been unlucky, but there's just not much of a bevel on. There is no way you would get that exhaust to seal up long term with that clamp on. So it's absolute rubbish. It is going in the bin, and yes, a few quid wasted, but it's not often I'll have a moan about stuff from Mini Spares, because it's genuinely normally pretty good. That's the original one. I'll put it in the box of original parts off the car, and this is a cast iron type one, which has a much deeper bevel. So let's get this fitted on, and that'll be the end to all the exhaust blows for good, I hope. What a load of sh**. There we go, that's much better. It's purring now. No more exhaust blows. It is a bit of a pig to do, they're not nice to do. I actually remember when I was an apprentice and working in garages, Austin Metros had twin downpipes. I think it was on the 1275s, and they had 2 of those clamps, and they were really difficult to get to, but not quite as bad on a Mini.